Right, so fans have been awake, metaphorically speaking, absolutely seething this morning, and it's not even about Alavés. The Bernabéu is reportedly gearing up for a massive protest tonight, and the fuel for that fire? Arbeloa's press conference.
Madre mia, I have been running through every comment section I can find, and people are livid. One fan put it perfectly. They said, Arbeloa's press conference today was an embarrassment. Zero self-criticism, blaming the referees, and it all feels like a desperate attempt to avoid the massive protest at the Bernabéu tomorrow. That was written yesterday, Tio, and tonight is the night.
And what makes it worse is the timing. You've got a fan base that's been in grief mode for a week since Bayern. They're already emotionally depleted, and then Arbeloa walks out in front of cameras and essentially says, "Not my fault, refs." That's pouring petrol on a bonfire.
Another fan was even more pointed. They said, he's too much of a yes man to the players. We need to change the coach and the so-called stars who don't defend and can't guarantee goals. That's not a fringe opinion right now. That's basically the consensus.
Look, we've covered Arbeloa's situation almost every day this week, so I don't want to just repeat ourselves. But what's new today is the Bernabéu angle. The protest isn't hypothetical anymore. Fans are actively talking about making noise tonight, and that changes the atmosphere around this match completely.
And here's the thing. One fan actually made a point that stuck with me. They said Arbeloa will leave without a legacy. That's brutal, Tio. Not angry brutal, just cold. Like the verdict is already in and everyone's just waiting for the paperwork.
Which, to be fair, is probably accurate. The news context around this match. Marca literally published a piece titled, "Arbeloa will leave without a legacy." That's not fan hyperbole. That's the press catching up to what the socios already decided weeks ago.
Venga, let's talk about what's actually happening on the pitch tonight, because the Mbappé debate is still raging and it's bleeding into how fans are viewing this Alavés match. One fan, and this one made me laugh, said, "Who's going to come here to live in Mbappé's shadow?" Like the rebuild conversation is already poisoned by the question of whether Mbappé is even someone you build around.
That's a real tension in the fan base right now. On one side, you have fans saying sell Mbappé immediately. One comment literally said he destroys the dressing room and can't score to save his life. Sell him fast. On the other side, you have people pointing out that if you bring in more big names, you're just adding ego problems.
One fan literally listed it out. Haaland, Vinicius, Mbappé, and Bellingham in the same team. That's going to be more ego problems than anything else. And honestly, that fan might be onto something. We've seen what happens when the hierarchy isn't clear.
But here's where I'd push back on the fan sentiment a little. The anger at Mbappé is real, and I understand it. But the Ballon de Playa comments, the "he doesn't score for anyone" stuff. Look at the Munich match. He scored in the 42nd minute. He scored in the first leg too. The problem isn't that he never scores, it's that he disappears for long stretches, and the system collapses around him.
Right, and fans know that. The smarter comments aren't saying he's useless. They're saying the team dynamic is broken when he's the focal point. But emotionally, after 5 days of processing Bayern, sell Mbappé is a much more satisfying sentence than restructure the tactical framework. Qué barbaridad.
Meanwhile, the Vinicius corner is fighting back. One fan went full caps lock. Vini forever. He has given more to Real Madrid. And another was asking whether the sell Vinicius conversations from a few days ago even happened, or if it was just clickbait. The Vini faithful are on high alert.
Yesterday we covered how the blame had spread to include Vinicius after Bayern, and the fan base pushed back hard overnight. The Vini loyalists are not having it. One fan basically said anyone defending the idea of selling Vini is incredible. Like, genuinely shocked that the conversation even exists.
And look, in tonight's match against Alavés, Vinicius started in Munich, he started against Girona. So we'll see what Arbeloa does with the lineup. But the interesting thing is that a match like this, a mid-table La Liga game at the Bernabéu, is actually a chance for Vinicius to remind people why the loyalty exists.
Now, the transfer debate. Tio, this is where it gets almost comedic. One fan said, 3 signings and we're sorted, says the idiot. And another responded, we're broke and you're thinking about transfers. The fan base is laughing at itself at this point, which is actually a healthy sign.
It's gallows humor, but it's there, and it's useful context because it tells you where the emotional energy is. Fans aren't genuinely excited about the transfer window right now. They're using it as a coping mechanism. Let's talk about who we're signing is easier than let's talk about why this season fell apart.
The Manchester United Tchouaméni rumor is floating around in the background. The Telegraph apparently linking him to United in a deal involving either Rodri or Enzo Fernandez, but I've seen almost zero fan energy on this one. It's like the fan base is too tired to engage with transfer gossip right now.
Which makes sense. You're asking people who just went through the Bayern elimination to get excited about a potential Tchouaméni sale? The emotional bandwidth isn't there. Though I will say, if that rumor picks up steam, it's going to ignite a debate about whether Tchouaméni is even someone worth keeping, given how inconsistent this season has been.
And then there's the Spanish football angle that some fans are bringing up. A few comments about the national anthem situation and referees and Tebas, the usual chaos. One fan from Uruguay was weighing in on the Copa del Rey anthem protests. Another from Costa Rica talking about respect. It's a whole wider conversation happening in the comments that tells you Madrid fans don't exist in a bubble. They're plugged into everything wrong with Spanish football right now.
One fan put it in very direct terms. That's the good thing about that corrupt Spanish football with Tebas and Luzon. Those corrupt ones are responsible for this division. Whatever you think about that take, it captures the mood. There's a generalized distrust of the football institutions around this team, and that makes every bad result feel like it's part of a bigger conspiracy.
Which brings us back to tonight. Alavés at the Bernabéu. The Juvenil A are apparently being honored before the match. They won something. And then the fans have to watch a first team that, by their own admission in the comment sections, has nothing left to play for. Vamos, what a night.
The protest angle is what I'll be watching most closely. Not the scoreline, not the lineup, but how the stands respond to Arbeloa and to the team tonight. Fan sentiment has been building toward this moment all week, and the Bernabéu has a way of making its feelings heard when it's ready.
If Mbappé plays well tonight, does any of that anger dissipate? I genuinely don't know anymore. The sentiment has hardened to the point where I think some fans are already emotionally checked out of the 2025-26 season and just want it to end cleanly.
And that, honestly, might be the most honest place the fan base can be right now. Not rage, not grief, just a quiet, let's get through tonight, let's see what the summer brings. We'll have all the reaction to whatever happens at the Bernabéu tomorrow morning. And knowing this fan base, the comment sections tonight are going to be absolutely wild. Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid, Tio! We'll be back tomorrow with everything. The protest, the performance, the full fan verdict. Don't go anywhere.